A new era of satisfaction has arrived. When America's #1 nicotine pouch brand goes ultra.
I have a brain that can't ignore that. So I kept digging into it and talking more. And I had more and more episodes where I would talk to people and find things out that led me to believe, hey, you know what? In the world stage, we're not the good guys. We have this idea of ourselves, that this American exceptionalism, right? We're the defenders of democracy. We are the champions of liberty and freedom. And then you talk to
Alex, hello, hello. Thank you for being here. We're 14 minutes away. Alright, there we go. So it's closer. So there's 2 orders. Alright, one is 14 minutes, one is... Let's see. Yeah, definitely we're going to do the 14 minutes first, and then we'll do the 20 minutes. Alright? Alright.
People from other countries, and they're like, why do you think that? And unfortunately, we don't have a good answer. And I think one of the most important things in any democracy is that the people that are participating in the democracy need to know what's going on. You can't make good decisions. You can't know who to vote for if you don't know the whole story. And right now, I think we don't get the full story. So what I wanted to do was basically help people see some of the stuff they may not see. Let's talk about why we don't have the full story. Let's talk about the story you didn't hear, right? And I give examples. In the introduction, I talk about Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? He went out to find new worlds. And we love that story.
Except that's not what happened.
In elementary school, you hear Christopher Columbus discovered America. Great. Then in high school, you learn, well, not really. The Vikings knew about it before, right? Then you go to college, and you learn, you know what, he never even set foot on the continental United States. Closest he got was the Bahamas, right? On his 4th voyage. Did you know he made 4 voyages? Most people don't. They just thought he went out once, he found America, and came back. Did we teach that he was arrested and brought back to Spain in chains just 8 years later in 1500? He discovered America in 1492. In 1500, he was charged with brutality, with embezzling money, stealing, theft, and chained and brought back to Spain to stand charges. And Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand didn't want the big scandal, so they just pardoned him and made it go away. And died. He died 8 years later, penniless, without titles, without anything he thought he earned.
At Vistaprint, we know you've got that idea for your business, like the one that stops people mid-walk. But once that idea is on flags, mile banners, A-frame signs, it's so much more than an idea. Print your possible with code NEW20 for 20% off your first order at Vistaprint.com.
We don't teach that part. But it's important that people know it, so that they know, hey, you know what? The story we were taught is not the full story. And that's what my book does, is it starts to bring out the rest of the story and say, here's the stuff you didn't know, and here, in order to be a good functioning person in our society. Wow, I actually didn't know that. I was talking to one of your staff earlier today. Look at Hawaii, right? One of our states, Hawaii. Did you know that they didn't want to be a state? Did you know that we landed Marines and had a naval vessel there and forced them pretty much at gunpoint to become a state? Did you know that their queen at the time said, I will abdicate power, but only because I don't want the United States to kill my people? I did not know that. Changes the story, right? But it's not the story that we teach. has a statement in there. He says, whoever controls the present controls the past. You get to write the history books. And whoever controls the past controls the future. Because that's what the kids learn. We don't teach the full past. And I think we need to if we want to be honest with ourselves about where we are, what we're doing, and how we're getting there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let me give you an introduction here. All right. Michael Lester, author of We Are the Bad Guys, which is an examination of American power. Graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and decorated Marine Corps combat pilot. You're also a member of Mensa with degrees in history, engineering, and leadership. I asked Jeremy what Mensa was, and then he told me it's for people with high IQ, and I said, that's why I don't know.
It's a club. It's a club.
But now you teach graduate level cybersecurity courses, and you have a quote in the book: I was proud to defend my country, show the flag, and support democracy, but I slowly started feeling that something was off. I felt that too, in the wars that I fought, and have articulated that several times. So that really resonated with me. And before we get into your analysis of American power, I figured we'd check on the wisdom of the crowd. So, are you familiar with Polymarket?
No.
Okay, well, Polymarket is a site, and a lot of people are on there, and they talk about the chances that things will or will not happen. So Polymarket says there's only a 1% chance that the U.S. will not conduct strikes against another country before 2027. Only a 1% chance. Somalia, on the other hand, has a 57% chance of being the next country struck. So, man, that's not good odds. Only a 1% chance that the U.S. will not conduct strikes against another country before 27.
Yeah.
No new wars, though, right? Just a rumor.
Yeah, right. That's what we're told.
That's what we were told.
No new wars. Must be true. Must be true. I heard it on TV.
It's going great. Going real good. But and then we have a subscription account. It's on Patreon, and there's about 100,000 people on there. It's quite the community, and they're the reason that I get to sit here with you today. And so one of the things we do is we give them the opportunity to ask every guest a question, and this is from Dana Bowen. Drawing on both your combat experience and your 20-year investigation using declassified records, what moment or discovery most fundamentally challenged your belief in America's role as a force for good? And how did that realization change the way you understand national security today?
Great question. Difficult to answer. I will attempt to answer it. And hopefully this answer is satisfactory. I didn't have a single aha moment where I just went, oh, I see it now, right? The fog is lifted, here it is. It's a slow learning process of, well, this didn't make sense, and this didn't make sense, and this didn't make sense. If I start drawing the line, I'm seeing a pattern here, right? There have been some events that are larger than others. A minor event was, I was, long story, stuck in Italy without a passport and without money once. And I had to go to this hotel, and I started talking to people. I speak German. I was speaking German to them because they were past the point where they're in the northern area. They speak German and Italian, and then if you get a little further south, they speak just Italian. I was stuck in the area where they only speak Italian, so the people I was speaking to all spoke broken German, not as well as I did. And they all asked me, like, where are you from? After we had been talking for a while, we're talking, laughing, joking the best we can. And then they said, where are you from? And I said, where do you think I'm from? And they said, not German. Your German's not good enough. Denmark? Like, no. They're like, Netherlands? no, we don't know. And I said, I'm from the United States. And the demeanor changed. And this was back in the late 80s. They all just went, oh.
In the 80s?
In the 80s, late 80s. They all just kind of went, oh. And the conversation was kind of over. And I remember thinking about that, but I just thought, well, that's weird. I wonder why that is. Maybe, and of course, my own American exceptionalism, I thought maybe they were intimidated. Later I look back and go, no, maybe it wasn't intimidation. Maybe they just looked at the United States as not being the best people to be allied with. Later, Gulf War, first Gulf War, second Gulf War, I started looking at things like, we're going to go into Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. We all knew there were no weapons of mass destruction. We had just been there. All of our weapons inspectors were telling us on the ground, hey, we're here looking every day. They don't exist, but we went anyway. Those kind of things that you see and you say, okay, this doesn't match. The things we're doing and why we're saying we're doing them just don't match. So there is no event. There is a series of events, if that makes sense.
Wow, back in the 80s?
Yeah, right.
That's surprising to me.
I had to think back on that one, but I remember it now. And then in the, again, 80s, I was an exchange officer with the Japanese Navy. And everything was fine and good, we're all happy, allies. But then at night, they'd take you out and they'd start doing some drinking and start saying things, and you're like, that doesn't sound like you really like us much. Kind of put up with us, maybe. And again, thinking this is our ally, but once the niceties end, there's an undercurrent of dislike. And you have to ask yourself then why.
Probably because we bombed them after they surrendered.
Right. What? I mean, you would assume there would be some animosity there, right? After they surrendered, they had to surrender. But then we're saying, okay, they're our ally. We're linked with them. But it didn't look that way underneath the covers a little bit. And again, you have to ask why. Why? Was it because, okay, we defeated you in the war? Okay. What was the reason in Italy? When I go to another country, what's the reason? And they have their reasons. And then you have, or is it me? What am I doing? What am I doing that's not building friendships? What am I doing that's causing people to dislike me?
And I agree with everything you're saying and everything that we had talked about on the hot question. What I want to ask you is, how do you decipher what is justified animosity towards the United States and regular jealousy?
It's difficult. I think justified animosity follows a pattern. It's usually not one thing either. You can be jealousy. Look, you can. Don't. But then again, dig a little deeper. We believe people all want to live in America. Statistically, we don't have a better lifestyle. We have, we're 7th in life expectancy, 55 in freedom of speech or whatever. We incarcerate more of our people than any other country on the planet. So our exceptionalism, where we think that everybody wants to be us, isn't always facts. When you start digging, is it jealousy or is it animosity because of what we're doing? At times, I think you find our activities around the world, we're not building good friendships. We use people more than help people. And we all have, I would say friends, but not really friends, is you ask them for something back, they're like, I'm busy, right? That's a problem. You make friends by being a friend. And sometimes we don't do that. Not always, but sometimes.
I think a lot of countries have a
Christy,
justified
thanks for being here. Hello, hello.
about the
Peter,
way the U.S.
Ryan,
conducts business.
Casey,
I don't know.
hello,
I feel
hello.
that way about Europe.
I don't see Europe as a big issue. I
All right,
think a
we're
lot of countries,
1 minute from drop
I
off.
agree. I think a
1
lot of
minute
countries have a
from
justifiable
drop
reason
off.
for not letting us. And I think we sometimes have the choice of how to do things. And sometimes we choose the expedient short term.
How long did you spend writing this book?
I've got two answers to that. If you take my entire time that I was just processing it in my brain, 20 years. Eventually, though, everything got to a point I'm like, I've got to start putting this down. From the time I started putting it down, it was a year and a half. And it's funny. Somebody's looking for someone.
Drop off.
Writing a book is like having a child. What you see when they're born is not what they become when they're 18 and they leave the house. It matures. The book started with 7 chapters. But then I'm like, well, that doesn't explain this. So, so you add, and then you add another one, and then you're like, well, but this should be its own section. This should just talk about this, and you write a whole section, and you're like, but then that. So it matures and it grows over a year and a half from what it started as until what you finish with. And another thing I learned is you have to know when you're done. You can keep going forever. Right? And all of a sudden you've got a 4,000-page book that no one will ever look at. So you've got to know, like, okay, this is deep enough. We'll stop.
Well, let's talk about the origin story.
Okay? The origin story, how it all started.
Yeah, let's talk about how it started.
The book. Like I said, it's a number of points. I told you Italy and Japan that I went in the military, and I was in Desert Storm. Why are we there? Well, we're there because the Iraqis invaded Kuwait.
Were you thinking that back then, or were you thinking that in retrospect?
No, at the time, we would sit there and ask, why are we here? I'm like, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and we have a treaty with Kuwait. Okay. That makes sense. But then sit by yourself in a desert for 9 months. you do a lot of thinking. And you start thinking, well, wait a minute. Did we not see this coming? Did we not know about this? Why are we here? What's our goal? What is our goal? Right? When do we know when we're done here? Is our goal to just push them out of Kuwait? No, that wasn't it. Is our goal to invade Iraq? No. So what is the goal? The goal is to remove all of their military power. Okay? they wanted their territory. Well, then you go back and you learn, well, there was more than that. There were some, Iraq believed that Kuwait was really part of Iraq to start with. And look back, that's not been true. There were charges that Kuwait was horizontally drilling under Iraq's borders into their oil fields. Most of that has been debunked, I believe. Then we've got some incidents where Saddam Hussein actually talked to the Arab League and others and said, hey, I've got a beef with Kuwait. We need help. You guys got to step in. And they go, no, we're not going to do that. April Glaspie, who was part of our State Department, talked to Saddam Hussein. And he said, hey, you guys got to do something. And April Glaspie told him, we have no interest in Arab affairs. And we don't want to get in a war over oil. Well, Saddam Hussein took that as the U.S. is going to stay out of it. I'm going to go in. And as soon as he goes in, the U.S. jumps in. And it surprised Saddam Hussein. He didn't think we were going to do anything after what our department told him. Again, these are things that weren't told. But when you start learning more about the system and what happened, you start saying, maybe our hands aren't as clean here as we thought. Maybe there are other issues. And then I was a personal kind of affront when we were in Saudi Arabia. We got word that, we listened to the news, like, well, right? And a bunch of the other pilots and I looked at each other and goes, well, then we're just mercenaries. We're not doing this for the United States. We're doing this because somebody else paid us to. That's not what I signed up for. And that's when it starts eroding some of the interest. It's a process. Once that starts, once you start looking at it, you can't unsee it. And the more you look, the more you see. And the deeper you dig and the more you pull that thread, the more it unravels. That's how this started. And I kept pulling the thread. I wouldn't let go of it.
Well, I can tell you how it popped on my radar, because like I said, I've been talking about this for a while, and the Dick Cheney connection to KBR in the Iraq War, looking for weapons of mass destruction.
Yep.
They're way, way too fucking long.
Yep.
That is what tipped me off. And then also in Afghanistan, we spent 22 years.
A place where empires go to die.
Yeah. And I was at work. I worked there in the SEAL teams. I worked there when I was contracted for CIA.
Yeah.
For a while there, I really believed in what we're doing, and then probably around, I'm going to say right around 2010 time frame, the rules of engagement changed, the mission changed, everything changed, and everybody was confused. Everybody was wondering, what the fuck are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Isn't doing anything. We're putting ourselves at more risk than
Right.
And
Marvin, thank you for being here.
it
Crystal,
seemed like
everybody, hello.
It seemed like the
All right, we got 9 minutes.
administrations were working against
I'll drop
our
off.
own people.
9 minutes.
And anyways, that's when I started thinking about it.
And I think it's funny because I was afraid when I first wrote this. I thought I'm going to be the lone voice in the wilderness. I'm going to get no support from writing this. And then I published it. And a lot of my classmates, I asked my classmates, I said, hey, go read this. Other people that went to the Naval Academy and served, some of them, 20 years, 25, 30 years. And I thought, I'm going to get ostracized for writing this. And I was shocked. I was shocked at the number of veterans, classmates, and other veterans that came back and said, I've been feeling this. I've seen this. We're with you. It's not just me seeing it. So many veterans are seeing, and they all have basically the same story. We all came in still believe in the country, but believing in the mission, believing on why we're there. But after you're there for a while, you're like, this isn't what they said. This is not what I signed up for. And the rules, the things you're telling me to do, this isn't right.
It makes you how much of what you think you know is a lot.
It does.
How much do you think you know is a lie?
Absolutely. And why were you told what you were told? What's the agenda? What is the goal? And again, I write about this. We have these information bubbles, and we are fed information in a certain way so that we believe certain things. And it's also done in a way that people, again, they get entrenched, where you can't challenge what they think they know, right? Because I know this is true. I'm like, maybe not. You're like, don't tell me maybe not. That's fake news. Or I don't believe that. Or whatever they want to say to shut down the conversation. Rarely do we have the conversation where people say, you don't think that's true? Why? Give me some facts. Talk to me. Tell me what you think. We don't get a lot of that anymore. We just get digging the heels in and pushing back. And I think it's important for us to ask why. We should be able to articulate why we have a certain thought, and we should actually look forward to people questioning it. If I believe in something, I want people to question me. I think I'm right. If I'm not, show me that I'm not, because I don't want to be wrong. And I want to be able to articulate to you, and if I can't do that, then it's more of a feeling than something that I know.
People refuse to poke holes in their own stories these days.
It's comfortable. It's comfortable to believe something and just stay within that comfort area. We fall into confirmation bias, right? I'm going to look up information that confirms what I already think I know. What about looking up information that refutes it? And I don't want to do that. That would require a lot of effort and thought, and I'm comfortable just reevaluating or revalidating over and over again what I think I already know. It's comfortable.
Well, it's destroying us.
It is. It is. And I've said it many times, the most important part of a democracy is an informed electorate. You can't make good choices if you don't have the right information.
I mean, it's impossible to give it. Are you talking about voting?
Voting.
How would you get the right information? I mean, I've sat here for the past 2 years, and probably interviewed about half of the current administration. I've interviewed a shit ton of politicians. And, you know, nothing they say they're going to do happens. For example, new wars. Here we are, 1 fucking year in. Venezuela, Ukraine, Iran, Gaza. Like, the fuck is this? And, still the Ukraine-Russian war will be done before he ever takes office. Right. Here we are.
So you have to ask yourself.
They can go Epstein files.
Right. We're going to release them all.
Yeah.
And then
With black lines over everything. In less than 1%.
I love the, at one point in time, we're going to release the Epstein files, that it was like, well, they don't actually exist.
Yeah.
Well, you just last week said they were on your desk. Well, yeah, but
I had a bunch of influencers go to the White House and hold up a bunch of binders.
right. And I have people ask me, what do you think about the Epstein files? I'm like, none of it at this point in time. There's been so much water under the bridge. I can't believe that even if they released everything they have, I can't believe that's it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's it. I can't believe I can go on Photoshop so we feel like, it's original, but
They redacted all of the abusers' names.
right.
They redacted all of the abusers' names.
Yeah, right.
It is definitely the most transparent administration of all time. That's for damn sure. But the point is, whatever, being hard on this administration, I don't think the last one was getting better, probably worse. But point being, they're all just fucking liars. Well, they are legitimately all just fucking liars. So how would the American people even formulate the opinion or their decision would be formulated off complete bullshit anyways, because everybody in office is a lying piece of shit.
For the most part. But then you have to ask yourself why. So, do you believe that everybody before they went into government was just a liar to start with? Is that just politics? If you go into politics, are you a liar? And lying...
Not necessarily, but I do think that it does have a certain draw.
It does. It does. I think that's true. I think we also have to look at incentives. We incentivize the wrong things. If we look at the same thing happening administration after administration after administration, regardless of who's in power, and it's always the same, then you have to say, okay, it's not the administration. It's not the Republicans. It's not the Democrats. It's not the Libertarians. They all do the same thing. Then it's the system. Something's wrong with the system. And then you look at the system and say, what's wrong with it? And usually it's the system is set up to incentivize money, not necessarily the outcome that the system should have. I'm going to use hopefully a fairly nonpartisan example. Look at our education system. We spend more money per student than any other country in the world. So you would think we would have the best rankings in education. We're what, 5th in math, 10th in reading, and 25th in science, or something like that. Those, I may have mixed up which ones are which, but it's 5, 15, and 25 right now. But we spend more than any other country. If we cut funding, we're still 5th, 10th, and 25th. Money is not the issue. But we're obviously incentivizing the wrong things. We're not incentivizing learning. So what are we incentivizing? Well, we're the only country in the world that has education for profit. What are we incentivizing? We're incentivizing profits. Well, if we incentivize profits, then you don't care about grades. And the results show that. So it's not that people say, hey, we need better education. It's like our system is set up wrong. Change the system if you want a different outcome. Don't throw more money at it. Don't cut money from it. Those are great talking points for an election. But they have zero effect on the outcome because the system is still the same. And that's just education. And we can talk about every other system we have in the U.S. and they all follow the same kind of pattern.
How about the power system?
Power grid, I think it's old. It's fallen apart. I think it's not as secure as we would want. Being in cybersecurity, I look at that, obviously. It hasn't been updated in a meaningful way. I'm sure somebody in power's distribution system say, oh no, we updated this. Yeah, okay. In a meaningful way, have we kept up with what we can do with cybersecurity? No, not even close. We haven't. Did we update the software on the servers? Yeah. Are we still running servers from the 70s? Yeah, we are. Right? You think there's no other...
I mean, China produced the Transformers.
Right? Yeah, our power distribution system, I think, is precarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. talking a little earlier, if something happens in the future conflict, kinetics won't be that important. If you can take out our power, take out our food distribution systems, water, I mean, who can fight, who can do anything if you're hungry, dehydrated, and have no electricity? It's hard to fight. Can't even pump gasoline. Might have it, can't pump it, no power.
Just like we talked about in the hot question, then we just turn on each other.
Yeah. Back to basics, right? Could be. I see a lot of people that are uneasy today, more so than I've seen before, because they all feel like something's going to happen. If nothing else, they feel like we can't continue, right? That this can't stay like this. And most of us that have that uneasy feeling, though, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, what is going to happen? I don't know. Maybe people that are a little bit closer to the centers of power do. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I do know it can't continue like this. Something's going to happen.
Do you feel like there's something?
Has no concern, right? You don't know anybody that's just saying, no, things are good. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's a little concerned right now. Everybody's a little at ease, at ease.
So where do we start with that, guys?
Where do you want to start? Where do we want to start? You know, I wrote the book, and my first editor was my wife, and she read through it, gave me all sorts of pointers, and said, might want to tone this down, might want to do a little better here, don't need to go in depth here, missed a comma, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it's funny, when she got done, she said, you know what this is?
Let's take Courthouse Road, Stafford.
States. I said, you know, not the way I thought of it. What do you mean? She goes, well, it gave me all sorts of pointers and said, might want to tone this.
Turn right on Apple Tree Lane.
Do a little better here. Don't need to go
In 800
here.
feet, turn left on Willow Lane. Then turn right on Red Oak Drive.
But it's funny, when she got done, she said, you know what this is? This is your love letter to the United States.
Turn left on Willow Lane. Then turn right on Red Oak Drive.
The way I thought of it. What do you mean? She goes, well, you're pointing out what has to change. And I thought about that a little bit more. And I thought, you know what? If you love somebody,
Turn right on Red Oak Drive.
something destructive, they're ruining their life. They're drinking too much. They're doing drugs.
In 900 feet, turn right on Courthouse Road.
It's starting to affect their life. If you don't talk to them about it, that's not a kindness. That's avoidance. And avoidance is not helping them. If you truly love them, you confront them and say, hey, look, I've noticed this happening. And you need to start noticing it too, because we have to make changes, because I don't like where this is going to end up. That's what this book is about. This book is about saying things have to change. And maybe you're not even aware of why. Maybe you're so involved you don't even see it. That try to help you see it.
All right, we're gonna get
And I'm
coffee.
gonna do that.
I've got the worst headache. I don't think I'm getting a headache because I didn't drink coffee all day. I think once I get some coffee,
in other countries.
some hot chocolate,
So that you
I think I'll be all right. All right, so
countries look at us like
that's what
you're
we're
not
gonna
the
do.
good guys. I'm gonna cover
5 minutes away
This is why you
from
think
getting
that.
coffee.
not your fault. We live in information bubbles. And I cover, one of the first things, when you're a SEAL, when you're talking to somebody, when you're interrogating somebody, you want information, right? One of the first things you do is isolate them. You don't want them to have other information, and then you feed them the information you want. And then you reinforce it. We do that to ourselves. I mean, first, we have one country to the north and one country to the south.
So much
we
for getting
don't
coffee.
get around to a lot of other countries, so we are already isolated.
Well, maybe
then
we'll
through
still get
algorithms,
coffee. I don't know. We'll see.
Through the internet, through our
We're still gonna
news
get coffee.
channels, we isolate ourselves even more. Well, when all you get is one piece of information, I can tell you what your opinion is going to be. So let's get more pieces of information. Let's get more visibility. And let's start having the discussion. That's how this came about. So I had the conversation all the time with people verbally. Finally, I just said, you know what? I've got to get this down.
Yeah. What are some things we've done in other countries that...
Oh, yeah. There's some things that are just, it's, you and I talked about some, it's amazing the things that we don't know. I start to point them out to people and they look at me like, are you crazy, right? I'm like, no, it's all documented. I have to point out too, I've got 448 pages, 120 some are footnotes. Because I would tell people all the time, don't believe a word I say. Don't believe me, please, for God's sakes, go research it yourself. Here's the footnotes. Here's the documents. And no, the footnotes aren't Wikipedia, right? Here are the actual documents, go read them, validate this for yourself. I mentioned, I've used the example because a lot of people can relate to it and it's close to home. Hawaii. Hawaii did not choose and want to be a state. We forced them to be a state at gunpoint. We landed Marines and we had Navy ships and essentially told them, be a state or we're going to come in and occupy you and make you a state anyway. And the Queen at the time of Hawaii said, I will abdicate my rule under protest purely to keep the Americans from killing my people. How many people know that about Hawaii? We just look at it as, oh, it's a beautiful place. We get to go there and have lays and, drink margaritas on the beach. But we don't look at what we did to get it. Panama. We're talking about we should take back the Panama Canal. Not ours to take back. But Panama wasn't even a country. It was part of Colombia. And then our CIA went down and helped some dissidents say, shouldn't you guys be your own country? We will support you.
got coffee. We got hot chocolate. We are good. Alright. Alright. We don't have coffee. Coffee's gone. Still have the hot chocolate. We're okay. It's not the end of the world. Fuck. Okay.